This is the quest within.
Welcome to The Quest Within. I'm Theology, your host. And today, I'm pleased to announce, he's back, y'all.
I'm back with a vengeance.
Oh, baby. Nathan Ashby
extra
is
breakfast
back.
now, though.
Yeah.
Because, everyone needs a little name change like Kanye and everyone else.
Oh my God, Kanye. Don't even get me started.
Well, let's not then.
So we're in my basement, which is nice and cold and cozy.
I'm toasty.
Very Midwest. Yeah, you've got the blue plate blanket of hospitality on you.
I remember that.
Yeah, we used to work for this company called Blue Plate, and they would give blankets to people that... Why did they give those out again? It was like if you did well in your stats or something. I don't even remember. If you got like guest compliments. I don't know, man. It's weird. Anyways, that's a job I also ended up quitting because I knew it was time. I'm trying to be on theme here.
Stay on thing.
Because you haven't been here in a while. What's new with you? Let's just shoot the shit first. Like, I miss you, man.
Miss you too, brother. Well, we got to see each other recently in Seattle when you came by.
Seattle was wonderful. Holy Mountain.
Holy Mountain. On Halloween.
Yeah, that was great.
It was good.
Wonderful scenes they were playing on the projector there. Yeah.
That is true. Well, that's good. Lots of life stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it takes its toll.
Indeed it does.
Between personal and work, and I think the concept of finding balance is kind of unrealistic and slightly bullshit.
Ooh, interesting, because I don't agree with you there, and I would love to unpack that.
All right, well.
Oh my gosh. Maybe we should talk about that instead of quitting.
I mean, start here and we'll see where we go.
Yeah, okay. Well, why do you say that? Because... I don't know. I think like balance is something you should always be striving to attain.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's entirely realistic that you'll get there instantly, right? But you can take steps in your life and make changes in order to get there eventually. But then something else will come up and then you need to adjust and adapt again. It's all about resilience and overcoming and adapting, right? Which I preach a lot. But I'm curious. Why would you say such a thing, Nathaniel?
Rude. Well, the fact of life is uncertainty will always be there.
Right.
And there are things that are outside of your control. So no matter how well you do and how hard you strive for balance and put the effort into it, there is always going to be things thrown at you that is outside of your control that can upset that balance.
Right.
So... you can definitely do things in your life to create a semblance of balance, and that's going to go off kilter at some point. Having the tools to be able to deal with that is the important piece and kind of bring you back in. But, I think there's a lot of talk these days around like, oh, I'll have to find like work-life balance and do all this. The reality is that work and life are very intertwined. And if you try and draw a hard line down the center and split it 50-50, 60-40, whatever it is, it's never going to work because those two worlds will always blend together in some way, shape, or form and bleed into each other.
I found that as well in my life because I'm, doing music, and music is something I immensely enjoy. And every aspect of it, like even down to sending like marketing emails, like I love it.
I blocked that spam already.
Nice. I'm in the mode though all the time of work, but it never feels like work, right? And I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday at the private party that I played at, where like if you don't take breaks, you will burn out eventually, even if you're doing something that you absolutely love. And I don't know, that's really hard for me, to be honest. It really is. Like, for example, when I was at Maddie's family's Christmas, it was like a 5-day affair. Okay, we got there Monday, we left Friday. And it was so nice to relax, right? But at the same time, a little tiny part of me felt like shit because I wasn't doing anything, right? I wasn't working towards my goals. I wasn't getting stuff done. And I don't know why that's in me, but it is. So, okay, to circle back, in the new year, I have vowed that I will take time for myself, away from work, away from, doing things that are deemed work, to focus on relaxation and, getting the right to quiet enjoyment in my life. And it's going to be hard because I enjoy every aspect of what I do for work, right? But yeah, if I don't take breaks, I will burn out. So I don't know, man. Like, I see what you're saying. There is this inevitability in life for weird outside variables to hit you. And then that throws off, like, I guess, the balance that you had. So maybe we say, like, balance shouldn't be something that we, like, strive for in a rigid fashion, knowing that it'll always change and always evolve.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with exactly what you're saying. And I think we're both talking about the same thing in different ways. I think I'm specifically naming... Also, nice corporate line, circling back.
Yeah.
And I'll circle back to that. Is in our world, especially within the corporate world that a lot of us live in, there is a lot of talk around now mental health and work-life balance and all of these things. Unfortunately, a lot of it is just talk and not a lot of action.
Yeah.
And
because profits.
We're not focusing on the right aspect of it. To me, the right aspect is like, work-life balance is being able to separate out, but have the tools to deal what comes at you. And you should be able to enjoy your work as much as your life. Yeah. I think a lot of us hate our work, which bleeds into our lives.
Right.
And finding the tools to be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
Which also, I think, is a good segue into when to...
Yes.
And to say,
knowing when
done.
to quit. I talked about this in my Tetris video, which if you haven't seen, you should watch, because getting insights out of a game such as Tetris is wild. But in one of the points that I made, I should say, I said, you should know when to quit. And I related it to this story, Nathan, of when I went out with some friends and we were out till, 9 a.m. And I don't do that very often. I don't know. Do you do that very often anymore, or just kind of when you come back to Minnesota?
I didn't get back till 4 a.m. So,
4 a.m. is like doable, right? Like I would have been fine if we had gotten back at 4 a.m. But literally, I get back I'm up till 9 a.m. I get back to my house and the sun is out and I cannot sleep.
Yeah.
Because the sun is out. And my mind is racing. I hadn't seen my wife for like 3.5 weeks at that point because she'd been working in California, and I wept for like 3 hours. My mind was in a weird place. And I sort of used that as an analogy to be like, yeah, maybe we should have just stopped. The night shouldn't have kept going because too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, right? Like even water, the source of life, if you consume too much of it, it's bad for you, right? Good Lord. Like, yeah, just knowing when to quit. But I want to expand on that because, like, I'm always constantly preaching resilience and you can do it, go for your dreams, blah, blah, blah. But there are times in life when you should quit. I don't know. What do you think? Like, are there any examples in your life where you had you came to a crossroads and you were like, well, yeah, I probably should just do something different now? I'd like to hear about that.
I mean, I can use my chefing career as a good example.
Please, that'd be great.
It was something I was and am still good at and passionate about. I will say my passion's come back since being out of the industry for many years now.
Right. Now that you're not being abused anymore.
Yeah. Well, that was a choice.
Yeah, I suppose so.
The problem was it was always an easy fallback.
Yeah.
It was in a lot of ways it was a crutch because it always gave me a out to not commit to jobs for more than 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
Because I always had like, I can always go back to cooking and, I've got contacts, I can get a catering gig or go to any restaurant, everyone's hiring.
Yeah.
Like it's relatively easy. But what that really did in the end was not allow me to sit in my uncomfortability of the other work I was trying to do to make a better life for myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, I made a decision when the pandemic happened. I was like, I'm done. I'm never going back. Like, and it was really hard for about a year and a half while I was looking for a job and trying to get into a new market, IT and other things.
Mm-hmm.
And always in the back of my brain, it's like, well, I could just go do that. And I just remind myself, no, I made a choice. And I made that choice because I know ultimately if I go back once more, it will just continue. And I had to stop because it wasn't good for my future
Yeah.
and it wasn't serving me. And sitting there in comfortability, sitting in the hard aspects, like I could do other things if I needed to, but going back to that easy thing was it was a struggle.
No, for reals. I mean, there are times in life, of course, when being comfortable is a good thing, right? But I think, I don't know, am I right to say that maybe if it's getting in the way of your growth as a person, like if it's making you stagnant, that maybe it's not a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do that within relationships as well as work.
Yeah, that is so true, because it's easier to stay than leave,
Yeah.
even though it's not good for you. Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, I was in one of those once.
I think everyone has at some point. And if you
Yeah.
haven't, then, well, eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think the biggest key for me in all of those decisions along my life of where it's like, all right, should I be done with this? Is the ability to stop and listen to what your body is telling you. Not what your brain, what your body is telling you.
Hmm.
Your body will give you a lot of information about what is actually going on in your life and how you are presenting yourself in the world. You know, over time, you're like, oh, I'm tired all the time. It's like, well, just something going on, or my back's hurting, or I'm all sorts of things. It's physical manifestations of stuckness
Yeah.
will come out over time, and it can take years.
Right.
But there's been a lot of situations where people get out of relationships or get out of bad jobs, and suddenly their energy starts to come back, and they're able to start working through physical things. It happens on a regular basis.
Yeah, for sure. Change can be so good and so effective, you know?
Movement is important in all aspects of life.
Good
But if you
God,
if
yeah.
you think of, you know, the concept of starting fresh, if you want to change your habits and what you're doing, you have to change your environment. I mean, the most hardcore of that is leaving wherever you are, whether that's, you know, getting out of a city, getting out of a state, and starting fresh.
Like you did with going to Washington.
Yeah, all sorts of times I've done that in my life.
Yeah, true.
But it is starting a new chapter, and it gives you an
Right.
opportunity to break your habits, and it's the habits that keep you going into it, and the comfortability, and you know, it's why a lot of relationships are tested, and a lot of relationships end in traveling,
Yeah.
because you are taken out of your environment where you have all the tools and resources and fallback plans that you've built up. Now you're in a situation where you have to work together if there's things come up, and things always come up when
Things
traveling.
always come up.
Every
Yep.
single time.
That's traveling.
That's traveling, and how you work together.
Yeah, true. And I'm so lucky that Maddie's amazing to travel with. I tested that one real early though, because that's a very important thing to me. I do it all the time, and yeah, it's been nothing but awesome to go anywhere with her, you know, even the cross country road trip that we take, you know, and then I'll like fly home once we get to California. We mostly listen to podcasts the whole time, but we're just with each other. We're being with each other. We're existing next to each other. And I don't know, that makes me happy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So I got a concept.
Yeah, totally. Like I once, I don't know if it was a meme or like a reel that Maddie sent me, but it was like find somebody, or like the goal should be to find someone who you can be introverted with. And as a huge extrovert, it does take a minute for me to do that, but I've never not felt comfortable being just in complete silence around Maddie, because we're just with each other. We exist together, and it's great. I don't know. Hard to explain, but you know when you know.
as a segue, a good representation of this that came to mind was you play a video game and you get all the way through. You play for like a week straight,
Yeah.
right? You get through to the end and you get to the final boss and you can't get it. You try for like 30 or 40 times and you can't get that boss. And then you step away and life comes up and you forget about it for 2 or 3 weeks and then you come back to it and you are at the boss fight. And then you try and do it again, and you're like, this is even harder than before. It's because all of the muscle memory of what you were doing when you played through the first time round, you built up all the skills, you built up all the motions.
True.
Now you have to redo that.
Yeah.
It is a lot of like items that we do in our life where if we stop what we're doing, especially in the learning process,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder to come back to it.
True. Working out is that way as well. I mean, that's actual muscles, right?
So when it comes to like, should I quit this or not? You have to ask yourself the questions like, all right, what am I trying to get out of this? What's the end goal?
Yeah, I've thought about that with games as well. Literally right now, I am stuck on Persona 5. I'm stuck on this boss that he's a CEO, so all he does is summon minions to fight you because that's,
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. A lot going on there with Luigi. Anyways, and yeah, that's a fight I'm stuck on right now, and I haven't played it in a while because, it was one of those where I tried 30, 40 times and I couldn't do it. That is my goal, though, this winter, is to get past that. So I'm going to have to rebuild all of that muscle memory again. Thankfully, Persona is not a technically, skillful game. It's not like you have to, what's the word? Be like super coordinated to play it. You just kind of choose options. It's a JRPG. But yeah.
So the question you asked, I think, ultimately was, when should you quit and how did you make that decision? Is that about right?
Yeah.
You never gave your side. What do you think?
Yeah, that's true. I did never give my side. So I don't know. With this one, I want to go back to it and I want to win. I really do. I feel like, there's two sides to the coin, though, because it's like I talked about a really good thing, right? With that, that story of, going out with my friends and us having a great time and wanting to keep that great time going. But there was no balance there. I'm going to bring it back to that. And we just kept going and going and going, and it wasn't good anymore. But then there's those things in life, right, that are, maybe negative or bad or hurting you or harming you in some way. And I don't know, like, previously in my life, I feel like I've approached things with a weird mentality, right? Like, I remember my my overnight serving job that I had at Perkins, which is like Denny's, but I guess higher class. I'm putting that in huge air quotes that you can't see because it's a podcast, but
those green awnings will
for reals.
Classy as hell.
But no, I worked that job until it broke me. And I was also in that abusive relationship at the time, and that definitely made me want to off myself for quite a bit. I thought about it a lot. I'm glad I never did because I changed my environment. Going back to what you said earlier, I made a lot of changes in my life. But I was in it. I was committed to that person, and they broke up with me, which, my goodness, what a blessing in disguise because, brainwashed little me back then thinking, oh, that's God's woman for me. Yeah, no, that couldn't have been further from the truth. That's what kept me in it. And I don't think that was very healthy necessarily. So looking back at that, do I wish I would have gotten out of that sooner? Yeah. But at the same time, I can look back and now know that I should respect myself more, right? And if something is causing me that much anguish and grief, to let it go.
My question to you is, what were the signs, looking back on it now, what were the signs that you could have picked up on that you were in that space where you should have quit?
Good question. Well, the arguments we would get in pretty much every time we saw each other, which was an excessive amount of them, more than is normal, because with Maddie, that just doesn't happen, man. Yeah, we've had like disagreements, but we always have resolved them just fine. Nothing's ever gotten to the point where we're raising our voices at each other. We've always talked things very, through very thoroughly and very peacefully, and always come to a resolution. Me and this girl would be like screaming at each other, not good. Not good at all. And yeah, the other signs were I wanted to off myself, you know, but I didn't because I had to stay true to God's woman for me. It's so messed up, dude. Yeah, I would say those are pretty big signs. There's nothing really else, I guess, that I could say. I mean, I kind of felt like she was losing interest in me as well as time went on. Nothing about it was really healthy. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I should have noticed that earlier, but, you know, that was like my first very serious relationship. And so how do you know when you've never gone through any of that before, right?
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So knowing when to quit is hard. So I think you have to ask yourself some fundamental questions.
Mm-hmm.
And taking a step back from the ego is like, is this serving me? Is this good for me, my life, and the people around me? Because
That's huge.
A lot of our daily life bleeds through into our friendships with other people.
Yes.
And we can lose friendships because if we're frustrated with life, work, whatever else, it bleeds through. You become more bitter, angry, negative, and people tend to not want to be around that. So you lose those friends, then you go deeper into that hole, and it's kind of a dark spiral.
Yeah, no, for reals. Dude, I have to make a comment about that because my old job where I wrote resumes for executives, that was bleeding into me being a mean person. And people noticed. And it was only people, though, that were like really close to me. I wouldn't necessarily bring that up around just like randos or acquaintances, right? But if I felt like I could trust you and I could rant to you, then I would. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't healthy, man. It wasn't healthy at all.
The word disenfranchised comes to mind.
Yeah, and when I quit that job, and I want to talk about another thing as well, so just hold that thought. But when I quit that job, I actually like apologized to some people, and I was like, dude, I was an angry
I never got an apology. Asshole.
Nathan, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh.
All right, we're back now.
Yeah. In Lexington, Kentucky, I actually became like friends with my realtor. We like hung out a few times, me, her, and her husband and Maddie. Great people. But I was telling Amy is her name. I was telling her about the fact that, you know, I was getting ready to like quit the job and do music. And she was like, yeah, you know, my mentor told me that you just got to burn the boat. And I like that as an analogy for quitting a lot.
Full on Viking funeral.
Yeah, dude, that's just like
burn it to the ground.
Yeah. I'm in this new like phase and season, and yeah, I'm burning the boat. I'm never going back. And I think that I initially thought of this when you were talking about getting out of the chef industry.
Yeah.
Right. And how that you had to burn the boat somewhat so that you couldn't go back. And that kind of forced yourself to grow in a positive way for yourself. Looking back, though, would you say you had the knowledge of that? Or was it just like, man, you know, I could go back? Or was it a complete like, no, I am done with this. I'm never doing it again. You know, not even as a fallback for even like a little gig here and there or whatever.
It was a self-respect thing. Number one,
that's big. Big.
I made a decision.
Yeah.
Number two, if I had made a choice that I wanted to do something better for my life, so I could be more present in the world for myself and other people.
Yeah.
To do that, I needed more time for me and more money. And I knew that ultimately cooking was not going to feed either of those things.
Right. Because you don't get paid that well and they want your entire life.
Yep. So I had to make the hard decision, and the self-respect piece came from like, I know I am, I don't want to use the word better than that. I think I'll use one of the word more than, because
yeah, that makes sense. I know what you're saying.
The people in the restaurant industry are amazing human beings for the most part across the board. We're terrible, but also amazing.
I had my fair share of years. Yeah I know.
But for me personally, I know that I can give more in different ways than cooking for others.
Yeah, that's true.
And to be able to do that for myself and then by proxy for others, I had to get out of that.
Right.
So, yeah, it was tough.
What you said there, though, self-respect, I think that encompasses all of this. And I want to just like close on this note. Sometimes you are, the analogy of the frog in the boiling pot of water, how it doesn't notice because it just gets gradually hotter and hotter and hotter, and then it dies. Well, hopefully none of you die. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you don't notice right away and you're in sort of a situation in life or multiple situations in life that are bringing you down, but you don't notice it right away, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. But then when you do notice it and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have a little more respect for myself, actually give yourself the grace to have that self-respect. Because I do remember when I was in that abusive relationship and my life seemed like it was going in a direction that I wanted to off myself, I didn't say things to myself that were of self-respect. I said, I deserve this because I have been, a piece of shit or whatever have you. I made comments like that to myself constantly because, why not, right? Good Lord. It's so weird to look back at that and to realize this, like in hindsight, I've never really unpacked that actually. So thank you, life coach, for allowing me to do that. It is really weird. But yeah, then once she broke it off with me, I had the opportunity to then see it from a different sort of perspective. And I was like, man, I did not love myself during that at all, So awareness is key. And I just hope that, anyone who hears this, if you're going through it right now, definitely think about that in your life. Are you respecting yourself? Are you loving yourself? Because it's huge.
Great way to end.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't even know how long this is going to be, but whatever. It's really nice to have you back, dude.
Yeah,
I've really, really missed talking about deep shit with you. It's been really good.
A boot.
Let's
go Canadian.
Well, that is balance and knowing when to quit.
Don't be like Anakin. Balance in the Force is not always real.
Correct. This has been The Quest Within. We will see you next time.
Peace out.
This is The Quest Within.